out there, rock and rollers. Welcome to the 94th edition of the Ugly American Werewolf in London Rock Podcast, brought to you by me, your host, the Wolf, Mac B. And as usual, I will be joined by my partner in crime on the East Coast of the United States, Action Jackson. If you've never heard the podcast before, we are two old friends that talk classic rock, hard rock, prog rock, heavy metal, early MTV, everything that turned us on as kids, and everything we've shared together over the years. And as I moved to London, I thought I would take the opportunity to explore more English bands and bands that maybe made it over there but didn't make it in the U.S. and vice versa. It's always interesting to see who makes it big in one place but does not make it in the other. And this week we are featuring a band that was big in the U.S., really couldn't be bigger than Alice in Chains was in that whole 1992 to 1994 or 5 or 6 region, the time of grunge, which was so popular in America. And I know Nirvana did well over here in the UK, but Alice in Chains never really seemed to hit the heights in the UK, and not even really the rest of the world that they hit in America. Part of the Seattle scene. Their first album, Facelift, featured the song Man in a Box, which was a big hit for them in 1990. 1991, they got to tour with Van Halen on the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge tour. And then they put out an EP called Sap before they made their second album, Dirt, which is what we're going to talk about here today on the show. Now, hopefully you had the opportunity to check out show number 93 on Rush's Signals album, which just turned 40. And September is a big month for the history of Rush. Lots of great classic albums come out in September, not to mention it's Neil's birthday. I believe he would have been 70 this year. But we all miss Neil. Wish you around, miss his writing, miss his wit, miss his easy smile, and not to mention his incredible prowess on the drums. Rush being one of our very favorite bands of all time, you're definitely going to get more Rush reviews over the years from us folks. And I hope you enjoyed that one. But going into Dirt was a huge hit, talking over 6 million copies sold, but then over 6 million singles off of it as well, featuring Jerry Cantrell on guitar and lead co-vocals, Layne Staley on lead vocals and mostly the co-writer. You got Mike Starr on the bass and Sean Kinney on the drums. And Layne Staley was struggling, guys, during this. He was knee-deep in heroin, and he was neck-deep in just some bad thoughts, some self-hatred, some bad people around him. He funneled it incredibly well. He has an incredibly soulful and powerful voice, and he can really communicate these emotions and these hard things that he's feeling, which makes for some incredible music, but it can be very hard to listen to. And it really screwed up his life. I mean, obviously, I think it was 2002, he eventually succumbed to his drug addiction, as did bassist Mike Starr several years later. And you can hear it all throughout. And listen to the names of the songs: Godsmack, Junkman, Down in a Hole. These are not happy songs, right? This is not good for them. However, these are not happy songs. This is not what you sing to little kids. You don't talk about this stuff around the dinner table. However, it brought them great success. Lots of Grammy nominations, tour opportunities, which they had to tour down because of Staley's condition, but lots of record sales, and a lot of fans. So we're going to examine this album as it turns 30. It was released September 29th, 1992. When we were in college, it was definitely part of our zeitgeist, if you will, and definitely in the air, on the radio, in our dorms, in the cars, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to get into that here today. Now, first, I need to thank you for listening. I want you to download, subscribe wherever you podcast. Apple is huge. Spotify is big. We really like Good Pods. It's great for independent podcasters. But really, anywhere you get your podcast, we want you to download and subscribe. And if you're enjoying the show, hey, give us a 5-star review, or at least a positive review, because it helps us find more rock and roll fans like you. And we have to thank our incredible sponsor, RareVinyl.com, based in the UK. For almost 40 years, they've been delivering high-quality, rare, hard-to-find, and pristine quality LPs, CDs, singles, tour books, whatever you need. It's not even all rock and roll, but they have over 250,000 items in stock. They have an amazing team to assess what's out there and what they can get for you all, and they ship all over the world. And the best part is, because they're sponsoring us, you use the code PODCAST, and you can save 10% off all your orders, not just the first order, but all your orders going forward, which can really help the shipping costs and maybe give you that incentive to, maybe I'll just pick up that extra single that I won't just get one, I'll get two. Great shop, great people. Go to rarevinyl.com or EIL.com. Use the code PODCAST. Save yourself 10%. And we're super proud to be part of the Pantheon podcast family. About 100 shows, all music related, all fantastic hosts, great guests. And right now, we're running the giveaway of a lifetime, right? Ugly American Werewolf with Pantheon Podcast is giving away an exclusive VIP ticket package to Nick Mason's Saucerful of Secrets as they tour the United States across the fall. That's in September and October. So go to Nick Mason's Saucerful of Secrets. You can get tickets there. And then go to pantheonpodcast.com/Nick Mason and check out the opportunity for you to enter to win. You get all sorts of cool stuff. You get a chance to be on a Pantheon podcast. If you go to the Indianapolis show, which is where Jackson and I are going to be, you could meet us and maybe be on our show. We can't wait to see the band again. I got to see them live at Royal Albert Hall, and it was so special. I'm so psyched they're going to be touring America and that we can help one or two lucky fans upgrade their tickets all the way to the front row. So check that out right away. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, going through this Dirt album was not easy. Okay, it was not an easy listen. It's not happy. It's not like there's some heavy songs and then there's a light one or a ballad now and then. Or there's some downer songs, there's some uplifting songs. They're all very much downers. They're all heavy as hell. And it's not one that I'm probably going to listen to a whole lot, to be honest with you, going forward. I may have listened to it quite a bit back in the day, but there's a reason I hadn't listened to it for all these years. It'll just bring you down. If you're in a good mood, it'll fix that for you, you know? And obviously everything that Layne Staley and some of his bandmates went through, that's some tough stuff. And if it helped people get off of drugs or realize that they're in a bad spot and need help and then they got it, okay, that's great. And I hope anybody who needs that help gets it. But this, for me, was a tough listen. We're going to walk through it here, though. It's me and Jackson talking Alice in Chains Dirt on its 30th anniversary here on The Wolf. It was all like looking up in life, you know, have a positive attitude. I'm in a neat place. It's cool to be here. I'm figuring it out. So, all right, what are we going to review? Well, Dirt's going to be 30. All right, let's listen to that. Oh my God, I'm a horrible person and the world sucks.
Well, I would agree with you. It is a very, very tough album to listen to. But if you're, how old were we? Probably 19 or 20.
Yeah.
And angsty, this was a very good friend.
You can't deny some of the riffs off it. It was like dirty Sabbath. It was so distorted. It really kind of it took you right back there. It was just what he was singing about and the way he sang is like, whoa. At the time, I don't even think I realized exactly what I was listening to when it comes to Layne Staley, to be honest with you.
Well,
because I didn't have any kind of dark, deep thoughts. I was still kind of a happy, like American suburban kid, like la la la. Yeah, things go bad for me, but they always tend to work out, right? But not like this. I didn't understand anything like this.
Yeah, I can't tell you that I was in the same boat with Layne Staley, but yeah, there were definitely some things that I related to on this record. It's kind of sad now to go back and look at this because you know how his life ended. And, you know, had he been one of those guys where it was like, yeah, you know, I was really messed up for a while, but I got through it. And, you know, now I'm 12,000 days sober or whatever it is. But no, you know, he died in Seattle face down. And it's just a horrible story of a dude who had a lot of demons and just couldn't get past them.
Yeah, I mean, tragic story, but it was always his story. I felt like it was always going to be his story. It was like from the very beginning. Well, I don't know. Man in the Box, I don't think we really knew anything about his heroin use or anything like that. That came out when we were in high school. It was a big hit. I don't think it was kind of widely reported. But then when this album comes out, Dirt, 1992, it's pretty obvious what he's singing about. I mean, it's correct. It's very obvious. And then you look at him. Look, this had 5 videos, 5 fairly, well-produced videos, 5 singles. That's a lot for back in the day. This was incredibly successful, man.
Yes, correct. And they were, I don't know. I bought Facelift when it first came out. I thought it was great. I thought it was a hard rock record. Nobody knew what grunge was. Right. They kind of got lumped in because they were from Seattle. I never thought of them as grunge. They were more just like you said, like Sabbathy, hard rock, blues based. And yeah, this start to finish, this album is just brutal. But what I was thinking was that it was their sophomore record, but it's really not because they put Sap out which was kind of I mean, it was an EP, so it doesn't really count.
And it's acoustic, so it's not necessarily, I mean, most of it, so
Correct.
it's between those two things, and it has the ghost track on it. Yeah, okay, whatever.
But they did do something different in between. So
Yep.
I was thinking like this was the you hadn't heard anything from them since Facelift, but that's not, I forgot all about that because I kind of get Sap and Jar of Flies put together in my
Confused.
mind.
I know.
Yeah. And so I had forgotten that they had one in between, but it's kind of a good deal because apparently they recorded the last track Wood for the single soundtrack.
Right.
And then I guess Sony had given them some money to re-record it, and they were like, "Yeah, we're not going to do that." So they took 2 days and just recorded what would become Sap because they liked how it sounded. They wouldn't want to mess with it, and they wanted to put this out. So I mean, I guess all's well that ends well. I'm sure Sony was a little bit bent out of shape when they did that, but
That's interesting, though. Yeah, no, and so I mean, I guess Wood, yeah, because Cameron Crowe did put it in singles. He did help direct the Wood video. And at the end of the video, you kind of get a little, I don't know, what you call it, an advertisement, a little video bumper, a little thing that showed the label of the movie or the poster or whatever it was. But so that's all right. So how did we come into this back in the day, Jackson? All right, so this comes out in September 1992, our sophomore year, living in the Elizabeth Hall.
Correct.
With some of our lifelong friends. We didn't know it at the time yet.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, about how, because like you said, I remember when it came out, I remember living in Elizabeth, and then I remember, that was a crazy year. That was very interesting. But I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait for it to come out because, like I said, I was a huge fan of the first record. So when the second one dropped, I didn't even really care. I knew I was going to listen to it.
So that was September 29th, 1992. And I assume that was a Tuesday because that's when they used to release new records, was on
Probably.
Tuesday, for whatever reason. And I assume you went across the street to Park Avenue CDs.
Money in hand, ready to roll. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. This was one that I would have bought sight unseen because back then, I had there was and then I was excited too because we were talking about Wood on the single soundtrack. I was super excited when they included it on this record because I can't stand when there's a great song on an album that you're probably not going to buy. Yeah,
it's a tribute album or it's a soundtrack. A lot of soundtracks out there,
right.
Or some kind of odd compilation thing that no one was ever going to buy. Yeah, it drives you nuts. It's like a good B-side. It's like, why did you leave this off the album to begin with? Better than the last 6 songs on the damn record. Yeah,
right. But I do remember getting it, and I remember putting it on and just saying it's like a truck hitting you. It's so heavy.
No, it really was. And so you mentioned Facelift that came out like our senior year of high school or the summer before, maybe, Man in the Box was huge, big hit for them, I'd say. And then we saw them live. We saw them open for Van Halen.
Correct. And it was actually pretty cool because I heard Sammy talking about how he really got the whole grunge thing. He knew that was going to be the next big thing. And so including them on the tour was like, hey, we're cool. We know these guys. We're promoting.
Is that what it was? Because looking back now, that doesn't make any sense, at all to me. I mean, Van Halen, can you imagine, the people who were kids in 1984, but now they've got kids in 1992, or, so it's like, I really like that new Standing on Top of the World song. It makes me feel great. I don't even mind doing my taxes after I hear that song. No, that doesn't fit in with Man in the Box, And I remember when we were at our show, I actually did see them twice because I saw them in Indy before I moved to Orlando with you. There's a couple of kids because we had upper level. We didn't have the best seats in the whole world, but we had upper level seats. And we looked right down on the bands from the side. And there were a couple of kids a few rows down in front of us. And I say kids, we were 18, but they looked like they were just as young or younger, and they were really rocking out to Alice in Chains. Well, most of the middle-aged white people there sitting there, all right, where's Van Halen? Just kind of tapping their chin or whatever. These kids were like, yeah, that's why we're here, woo! And they were all getting down and into it, and they were great live. I remember they pulled off their stuff really well. They came out basically naked and did the 5150 dance around the Van Halen guys, and I don't know.
Right.
I just thought, these guys really fit in on this? I'm not so sure about that. They're good. They're their own thing, but I didn't think they fit with Van Halen very well at all.
I was excited. I was excited to see them. You're right. They did seem a lot heavier, but then you can't always have the two bands that go perfectly together as an opening act, because I know it's part the record company too. Like they want you to push whoever the new person is off of your fame. But I was pleasantly surprised because I've sat through some bands opening bands that I didn't really want to. So super excited about that.
That's true. And so that's our impression. They have one album, you have it, one pretty big song. It's like, okay, yeah. And then they're supposed to be opening for Metallica on part of the Black Album tour, which we did see. And they had to stop, or they had to not do that. Because of Layne's, and I think Mike Starr, the bassist, drug usage, namely heroin, which is what so much of the album is about. They say, well, it's only really about Junkhead and Godsmack. And I'm like, no, look, man, it informs everything he says and feels on this whole thing. It's already his whole world. And it's like, it is so ugly inside the head of someone who's going through that, man. And the way he sings it, and the way those two kind of harmonize together, it sounds evil. It's got some nasty stuff. I stay away from heroin is all I want to say.
Probably now is the PSA time. Yes, do it. Never ever ends well for you. It's
do not do heroin.
because the problem is that apparently I don't have any firsthand knowledge of this, but you're only trying to get high for the first little while. Then after that, you're just trying not to get sick. It's just horrible. It is a horrible thing. It's a horrible world to get dragged into. And I think this record does a pretty good job of showing you what that's like. Like, you want to take this ride, this is what you're going to get.
Yeah, no, horrible. Of course, we research our shows, folks.
Correct.
But we're not going into the research to actually do heroin. But so I researched a little bit about it, and I just, obviously researched what we know about Layne Staley's struggle and battle with heroin.
Mm-hmm.
And I was more interested in why he was doing heroin, besides that it just gets you high. Right? Because usually people who do heroin, they've gone through some kind of real trauma in their life, maybe some childhood trauma, which I don't really like to talk about, but that's nasty stuff that can really screw people up, obviously, people who've been through wars or been, abused, whatever, that kind of stuff. So that was always my question. And I don't know that anything like that really happened to like Keith Richards, who did a lot of heroin, or Jimmy Page, I don't think had any kind of big, horrible traumas in their childhood or anything like that. So obviously it might not be the case, right? But that said, in looking into Layne's past, it looked like some pretty screwed up things happened to him, and then he did them to himself, and then he's very, I don't know, I wouldn't say eloquent in the way he says it, but there is a bit of poetry to what he says, given all the pain that he's in.
Yeah, and if you really listen to what he's saying, you can feel what he's going through, because there are parts of it where they kind of glorify it. And then there are parts when they tell you this is the reality of the situation.
And the reality is, don't do heroin, okay? Because Layne Staley died of his heroin in 2002, I guess it was. I didn't realize he'd lived that long, because
I didn't either. I thought it was very. I didn't think he made it to the 2000s.
I didn't either. If you would have asked me before we started researching this, when did Layne Staley die? I just said 1998. I honestly didn't know. And he did a little bit of, a couple of little things after his time in Alice in Chains. And this is really the high point for Alice in Chains, right? They had their big success with their debut album. They did a big tour with Van Halen and some other big bands. They're getting nominated for Grammys and things like that. They put this album out. It's got 5 singles. They sell 5 or 6 million copies of the album. They sell more than 6 million singles. We're talking about multiple platinum singles on this album. So they're huge. And I guess the weight started to collapse. They started to tour down. They wouldn't tour with Kiss. They wouldn't tour with Metallica. They wouldn't tour, period. Like, we can't take Layne out, Mike Starr either, for that matter. And they got Mike Inez in eventually to do the big MTV Unplugged. I think you have to admit that Alice in Chains did one of the most memorable MTV Unplugs that was done.
Yeah, I think you could maybe say Nirvana also. I'm not a huge Nirvana fan, but yeah, that was huge. And you could really tell. I watched a little bit couple of clips for the show. He's not in great shape in that show. He sounds great. He doesn't look great. He looks
No.
like he's wasting away.
And he hadn't been in public or been doing interviews for like a couple of years at that point, right?
I think so.
Since
Yeah.
A Jar of Flies came out or something like
Yeah.
that.
And then it was like that. Oh, he didn't look so good.
Yeah, like they literally hadn't played together in more than 2 years, and so yeah, he was not in good shape, and that was kind of his farewell in a way. Was MTV Unplugged, but no. Soon after that, his girlfriend Demry, who I guess was a model and a hanger-on, and she had died of heroin, and there's a little back and forth. She got him into it, he got her into it. It doesn't really matter, once you're into it, it's a losing proposition. And I think when she died, he blamed himself. That's even more fuel on the I hate myself, I'm a terrible person fire, and that he couldn't stand himself anymore. And we'll get into some lyrics here about what he sees himself becoming and who he is and how he hates that worse than what he hated before. And ugly, nasty stuff. But
yeah, it's definitely a vicious circle.
But I mean, I didn't realize, and of course we wouldn't have at the time, that his father left him when he was very young, and obviously that can screw up a lot of people, especially young men. And I guess his father was a junkie, and he came back into his life once he was famous, so he could score drugs off of him, and so not a great guy. But then I read something, I can't verify this is true or not, but I read something that his stepfather molested him.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean that'll ruin a person, and so you've got daddy issues because the daddy who you always wanted ran off. You never know why. You always think it'll be great if you get together. The guy who's supposed to be your new dad, he does the worst thing imaginable to you. But then I did find my real dad. Yeah, no, he's a terrible piece of shit. And so am I. Oh, Jesus. So I'm like, yep, that's what this album is built upon, folks. There's the foundation, okay? Seriously, dude, after I listened to this, because I always listen to it a couple times. I listened to this a couple times. I had to put on some ABBA just to make me feel better again. Just to see, is there a sunshine out there kind of thing, dude. It's almost an hour long. It's not like there's a ballad, like you might get on a heavy metal album. I mean, this is just all down dirty, grungy, unhappy death.
Now, can you imagine doing this record and then being on buses and planes and just away from everything for, a year at a time or whatever, and just singing these songs over and over and over again? I'm sure that just didn't help the situation. There was one of the guys from the Screaming Trees, I guess, was with them a little bit in Europe, and he was just telling this horrendous story about how when you go from country to country, they were going to search you not only for drugs, but for paraphernalia. And I guess they were loath to snort heroin because I guess that's just not the same. It just
not as big a high, right?
Yeah. So you're basically wasting it. So they had this one needle that three of them were sharing, and they had a little hidey hole in the bus. And he was saying that after a while, it wasn't even sharp anymore. So they would scratch it on a matchbook, and you had to go and get some kind of citric acid, or if you were in dire straits, you could find a lemon, even though that could really mess you up, to cut it down. And just this never ending, because either you're high or you're trying to get more drugs to get high again. And that's the thing, you get to a new country. Who do we know? We got to score. We got to do this now. And oh my God. And then you got the rest of the band dude, we got this giant show to play, and all you're thinking about is how to score, and then you're screwed up, and now you can't play for the show. And yeah, just unbelievable.
No, and the Metallica show we saw, they could have never kept up with Metallica for any period of time.
No.
I mean, no way. In the most expletive-laden 30 seconds I've ever heard in my life, Metallica came on in a video before the show and basically said the F word every third or fourth word. Hey, what the fuck is fucking up, fuckers? Seriously, it's our moms are not here to tell us no. We're going to talk any damn way we want. And Alice in fucking Chains, the fucking band, a little fucking world is fucking heavy enough to fucking open for us. But they're in fucking Europe. And then they proceeded to come out and play for 3.5 hours and just kicked our ass, which was awesome. But I mean, Alice in Chains could never have done months and months on the road with Metallica, not the shape that Layne Staley was in. Sonically,
No.
if he was in good shape, I'm sure they could have, but not the way that he lived his life.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, I think the touring life it's already tough. And then you throw that in and it's impossible. And I can't even imagine what it's like for the rest of the guys in the band. They've got something, and I understand not everybody was an angel there. I think Cantrell had his own problems with drugs and alcohol.
Yep.
But yeah, to have that wild card of you just don't know what you're going to get. Is he going to show up?
Mm-hmm.
If he does, can he play? If he can play, is it going to be is it going to be any good? You don't know. So that's an extra stress, because I'm sure you've got the tour people and the record companies saying, what are you guys doing? You promised us this big tour, and now you're flaking on it.
Mm-hmm. No, so that's the world, right? That's the world of Alice in Chains. They're getting nominated for Grammys. They've got big budget videos, 5 of them on this album. So let's get through this, because this is gonna be hard. All right.
Well, one thing I wanted to bring up real quick, because it doesn't mean anything, but it's just an insane coincidence that apparently they got to LA. And on the second day, setting up the sound and everything, it was the LA riots.
Rodney King
started that day.
Yes.
Correct. So they had to basically they just left, and I think they went to Joshua Tree for a week or something, because this place is just so right off the bat, this thing started with chaos.
Right. Yeah. Riots and looting, and fighting, and sirens and fires, and yep, that's your studio. That's the safe world around you.
Hi, I'm Paul Stevenson from Vintage Rock Pod, and you're listening to The Ugly American Werewolf in London.
No, and right. Who was the producer? What was his name? Dave Jordan.
Okay.
Dave Jordan. I guess he worked with them on their first 2?
Yes, correct.
He was always trying to get Layne to clean up. And it wasn't like he was being, like a good friend or even trying to be a father or anything. He's just trying to get him to make a good record. It's look, if you just clean up while we're in here, we can get good work done. But I think Layne always took it as, you're trying to change.
Yeah, you're trying to tell me what to do. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You open up with Them Bones.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty big hit for them. But I mean, listen to the way it starts, man. The screaming, ah! I mean, you could hear someone wailing in pain. It's this heavy, heavy riff.
And it's that I don't even know how to describe the vocals, but that chugging, it's just it's.
I've got that in my notes, dude. It's chug, 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 chug.
Yeah. And it's like getting hit by a 2x4 right off the bat. They don't ease you into this at all. It's just right
from the
off
jump,
the bat.
Man.
Yeah. And
no, it's short. It's a nice kind of hit you in the face, punch you in the mouth opener. It's 2.5 minutes long, but it's heavy as shit.
Right. And the guitar solo in it it's not fast, but it's powerful, and it's just it's a great opening track. And I think that was this the first single off the record? So,
okay, technically Wood was the first single off it because it was on the single soundtrack. But yes, this is the first single, the new one.
Once the record dropped. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Because I remember when it did, it was on on the stations we listened to, this was on every third, rotation. They played the crap out of this song.
Yeah, no, and that's what I mean. Look, in the Wood video, which is the last song, but it was the first video, they looked very grungy in that. They were definitely kind of very much still in their Seattle days.
Yeah. I
feel like this is now the first video for the record company on the big follow-up to Facelift. Mm-hmm. It's heavy as hell, and they put some money into it, and they look more like rock stars than they do grungers, right? I mean, they don't, Staley doesn't look awful at this point. They all look young. They, Kinney and Cantrell look like rock stars. I mean, they still do for the most part. And it's, this is a Cantrell right about how, one day we'll just be bones. So let's,
correct.
Let's make the most of it. But, the video is animals killing each other. And they're literally down in a hole, which we'll talk about down in a hole before the video shoot. I mean, great opener, comes out, punches you in the face, million seller, million selling singles. So they'll always be remembered for this one, I guess.
It definitely, for being the first track, it definitely catches you as soon as it starts. And, you know you're in for something different on this one, especially from the first record. You knew they were hard on the first record. This was going to be a brutal ride.
And here it is, starting off. And, well, it doesn't change much. Damn That River, the next song. I like this one. It's very heavy, and it's got a little meat to it. I just like it. But, I mean, the lyrics, holy mackerel, man.
I think it was what I read was that it had something to do with a fight between Cantrell and Kinney, and somebody ended up breaking a coffee table or whatever. And, you get that, again, you spend that much time with someone, things are going to get messy from time to time. Like you can't have four, I mean, I guess they were early 20s. I mean, they're not that much older than we are.
Right.
Guys hanging around each other, and, things just get out of control.
Sure.
What I liked about this one was and I don't even know what you would call it, but that freaky harmonization that Cantrell and Staley will do. It sounds like one person, but it's not. It's really the two of them.
Right. Yeah.
And it's kind of their signature sound.
It is. It is. And I think it's really, like you say, it's their signature sound. It really is what makes them different. I think it's also Cantrell's distorted guitar work and songwriting as well. But you're right. And sometimes Cantrell's singing and you think, well, how did Layne get his voice, to sound like that? It's like, it's not him yet. Eventually he joins and then he takes off.
Correct.
But see, after the first on Them Bones, he did a melodic solo, Cantrell, a pretty nice melodic solo, and he did some nice fret work on that, where this is not really shredding or anything like that. It's just kind of what it needs to be. It's another very short song. It's barely over 3 minutes, but it's plotty, dude. It's got a little Aerosmith, but nastier than that.
Yeah. And the riff is a little, this could have been they could have opened with this one too. Just the way that it sounds. It's got a real upbeat tempo to it a lot. Even though it's heavy, it's more upbeat than Them Bones.
I'll give you that. Yeah. That's I think the Aerosmith piece that I was having a hard time explaining with my limited vocabulary and addled brain. All right. So a little bit of a gear shift with Rain When I Die, because this is more slow, plodding, Sabbathy to start with that very distorted guitar. And here's your harmony lead vocals you're talking about here, Jackson. To their girlfriends, to both of their girlfriends.
It has to be. I mean, it's just this one will cut you pretty deep. I mean, when you listen to what he's saying too, talking about, is she ready to know my frustration? Was she slipping inside? Slow castration. I'm a riddle so strong, you can't break me. So it's like, it's you're having this relationship with this woman who you're trying to connect with, but maybe you won't let her, maybe she won't, let you in. And it's just, and that bass at the beginning, you just know this is, like you said, it's a gear shift. This gets really heavy.
Very heavy.
Yeah.
I think it's going to rain when I die. So, we're going to break up. It's going to happen. Here's the reason. I'm shut off because I've had these horrible, traumatic things happen to me that I'm not talking about. I'm just going to fix and make it go away for a little while. And that's not going to help our relationship much. It's not going to help our communication at the end of the day. I thought this was a little long after a while. It's a 6-minute song, but
this is kind of one of those ones where it's like, oh, it's still on. Okay, well, I guess we'll go for one more refrain then. Yeah.
Yes.
To go from 2:30, 3:09 to 6:01. Yeah, that's a pretty big. That's basically two songs put together.
Well, yeah, exactly. Now moving on to Down in a Hole.
Yes, you were complaining that there was no ballads on it. This is a very nice ballad. It starts off so nice.
It does, because it has a little acoustic guitar, which automatically makes it a bit of a ballad.
Correct.
This was the 5th single off the record, 5th of 5, 5th video too, and it is my favorite on the album.
Okay.
It might be my favorite Alice in Chains song of all time.
Okay.
How do you feel about Down in a Hole?
I like it a lot. Like I said, if you didn't know what you were doing, if you didn't know what you were getting yourself into, you would say, oh, this is a very nice, here we go. This is where we kind of bring things up a little bit, and then nope. We're talking about, Down in a Hole, and it gets nasty on you in that first refrain. Yeah.
And there's great harmonies, this time.
Yeah.
Everyone goes down sometime, but I mean, this is got to be close to the bottom, right? I mean, this is, rough. And is he singing to the drug? Is he singing to his father?
Mm-hmm.
Bury me softly in this world. I get this part of me from you. All I want to be inside of you. It's, I don't know exactly what it all means, but I know he's in some kind of pain. I don't know. Here's the thing about it. We all have our bouts and self-doubt, and sometimes we get a little down, some of us more than others.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone gets help or asks for it, But the thing is, there's still something a little uplifting about it when he said, I'd like to fly. And they go back to the major chords.
Yeah.
And I know at the end, my wings have been so denied. It's a little bit of bummer, but that I'd like to fly, it still makes it to me in the end an uplifting song, even though it's nasty, horrible. It's called Down in a Hole for a reason. I just think it all comes together, the riffs and the way that Staley emotes with his voice on this one. This is best in class, I think, for them.
Yeah, and what I always got bent out of shape with at this point in time was, I mean, basically the darlings of this were Nirvana. Right. They were the face of grunge. And then I think Pearl Jam was a second. But I always thought Layne had a great rock and roll voice. I thought they wrote great riffs, but I always thought people kind of in the music industry did not give this band enough credit for being as great as they were.
I don't know, though. I mean, they did get nominated for like 6 Grammys or something like that. And I think they won one at some point. Sold a ton of records. I mean, obviously they could see that what we're hearing, is that Staley does have something about him, and he and Cantrell together have this haunting harmony, chemistry that's what, and look, they quit. They didn't play for the longest time. Alice in Chains was basically defunct from 1990, late 96 to after Staley's death. They jumped back in to do kind of a tribute to him, and then they decided, okay, we're going to reform because, lots of people lose band members, we can go on. And so Sean Kinney and the surviving members, Sean Kinney and Jerry Cantrell, continue to this day. But another point I wanted to make on this one, because we're kind of going out of the order of the videos. The first video would...
Yeah.
The second, Them Bones, well produced. He's got the slick back hair, right? The good rock star look going there. Angry Chair, kind of more the same. Rooster, it's a little bit longer. He's changed his. I'm sorry, Rooster. He had shaggy hair, like it had grown out and all that kind of stuff. But then Down in a Hole now, it was like very closely trimmed, right? So he went from like grungy, dirty to like slick back rock star to like long and a little unkempt to like very, and all within a year, I guess. That's part of being a rock star, though, I guess, is having different styles.
And he had those cool bug sunglasses, those giant round ones that he looked like a rock star with those on, and the slick back hair. And I think they were more, I always thought they were a little more rocker too, as far as like, I think they were wearing leather instead of like the flannel shirts like everybody else had.
Well, yeah, I think it kind of depends on when you caught their videos, but yeah, they did cultivate more of a rock image than a grunge image. Look, a lot of people, just because they were from Seattle, kind of got lumped in as grunge, and maybe some genuinely were, but I mean, Pearl Jam wasn't really a grunge band. They're a rock and roll band. They're a hard rock band. Nirvana, I mean, sure, they define the term, I guess. People like Mudhoney, are they grunge? Yeah. There's some punk bands from there. I mean, they just got a lot of music going on up there. Right. The scene.
They needed something to sell easily. You could grab a band. Oh, you're from Seattle. Obviously, you have some kind of rock influence. That's grunge. Boom, throw it in there, and they sell a couple of records. There were a couple of bands there that I think Mudhoney was one of them, and the Screaming Trees, I think, were another one that people from Seattle like, these guys, I can't believe these guys aren't bigger, but I think they just didn't have the hits.
Right. Yeah. No doubt. But it's also like, I think that Alice in Chains were kind of seen as one of the cream of the crop, certainly by those in the know, because Ann Wilson from Heart, had worked on something with them, and Chris Cornell of Soundgarden and Audio Slave fame, would work with them and stuff like that. So they obviously saw these guys were legit. They were setting a bar. I think all those bands were kind of setting a bar for each other, kind of along the way, picking stuff up and showing stuff off.
Hi, I'm Deborah Bonham.
And I am the Irish werewolf in England, Peter Bullock.
And you're listening to The Ugly American Werewolf in London.
But anyway, that was a nice sidestep from talking about heroin and self-hatred and stuff like that, which is what our next song, Sickman, is all about.
Correct. And this one I like because it's frantic at the beginning.
And that's what I put. A little frantic at first.
Oh, well, there you have it then.
We are thousands of miles away, and yet we are right there, man. It's unbelievable.
Right.
After all these years.
It's frightening.
Yeah.
But it goes to it's showing you how that's the reality of the situation is you have this problem, you have this addiction, and you're trying not to get sick. You're trying to, you wish you could get away from this thing, but you can't. It just takes a hold of your entire life.
And this is just because you see in interviews where Layne would say it really shocks me and upsets me that I have fans coming up to me giving me a thumbs up like, hey man, I'm high, I'm on heroin, listening to your stuff. He's like, no, if you listen to this song, why in the world would you think it's a good idea? You get that frantic thing, at the beginning, charging beat, and then it's it's like just slow prodding part is very, it's kind of hard to listen to, and obviously they do it a couple times. There's the big middle slowdown where you have like people talking around him and laughing in the background, which this is something the drug addict who's just thinking about dope and everything around him is just noise, whatever. It's not my dope kind of thing. And then it's back to the chug, and then it's back to another round of I'm like, this is so hard to listen to. I would have fast forwarded to that because there's 13 tracks on here. I bet we would, after a few minutes, be like, okay, what's next?
Right. Yeah. I mean, at 57, 37. Yeah. It's a big commitment. And a lot of these songs, not a lot, but you kind of get in the middle section of this. And yeah, they're just brutal. And they were not, let's see, Rooster was a big single, but there were you get into Junkhead, Dirt, Godsmack. They weren't big hits. So you kind of have to, pick your poison on that one as far as if you were going to skip one.
No, so you skip that and get to Rooster. And Rooster was a big hit, it was their fourth single, and Jerry Cantrell wrote it about his father, whose nickname was Rooster. It's about surviving Vietnam, and they had him in the video and stuff like that. Heavy song, but I mean, 2 million singles sold on this one. So, and it's over 6 minutes long, so it's not like, oh, it's just a nice, cute little 4-minute. No, it's got a lot of wah, wah, wah in it. It's got a lot of distortion in it. And Layne's not too much in the video. He doesn't have his hair slicked back. It's kind of popped out, like I mentioned, but this was huge for them. This is a huge song for them. And
what I was thinking about for this track is that it doesn't really fit in with the rest of them. It doesn't have anything to do with the guys. It doesn't have anything to do with, drug addiction or anything else. But it totally fits in because it's this guy who and you can once you figured out what it was, because I think they at the time they kind of talked up the thought for how they wrote this, but you really get that feeling of being this guy, this person a million miles away. You're in this jungle. People are trying to kill you every single day.
Yeah.
Am I going to make it through this? Am I going to see my family again? And it fits in with this whole desperation. But then also kind of like you can't give up, because you're not going to make it if you do.
Right. And then, but Jerry's singing from the side of, hey, how come my dad doesn't want to play with me or can't relate to me or, isn't listening when I say I really want an Atari because all my friends have one. And, his old man's
he's still there.
Yeah, exactly. He's not saying anything to him because I just closed my eyes and I saw my buddy Jimmy's face blown off his head and, Hector's guts all over his body over here trying to crawl through the mud. And I'm like, sorry, kid, he didn't see that, side of it. They didn't see each other's side. They just couldn't talk about it, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, talking about you at the beginning, we were talking about Layne Staley and his father and then stepfather. This was Cantrell's father. But yeah, how do you deal with that? Like, yeah, he's here and he came back from the war, but yeah, I can't really relate to him all the time. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't horrible all the time, but yeah, having that in and out, maybe do you think that's your fault also as a kid? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's tough stuff for everybody to get over, for the kid, for the ex-soldier, for the drug addict, Everything's hard for the drug addict. So let's move on to something happier than Rooster.
Mm-hmm.
Junkhead.
Yay. Yeah. Now this one actually is a little bit of a change of pace because this is written from the snarky a-hole. You're just getting into drugs. I'll do anything, whatever. I don't care. I'm bulletproof. I want to party. I'm here to have a good time. And I think this was the one where Staley really regretted it because this one kind of, are you saying it's cool to get high or what's going on here with this one?
Yeah, musically, it's another plodding, Sabbathy start. It's slow, it's evil. Nothing better than a dealer who's high. I'm like, ugh. Yeah, I do want to give compliments to Sean Kinney here and a little Mike Starr too. I think, especially from the middle to the end, I feel like the drums and the bass really kind of stand out. They do a good song, a good jam, a good distorted jam, But yeah, I mean, it's about being wasted, about being a junkhead, and what's the point of that? And like you say, after this is dirt, after this Godsmack, and then the odd kind of iron gland, or before you get to hate to feel, another not a big single either, but obviously hate to feel. So I mean, this is a run, man. After Rooster, Junkhead, Dirt, Godsmack, that intro song, Hate to Feel. Nothing happy happens here, and it's not radio worthy, so it's not like the riffs are so awesome. I don't know. I mean, like mine, my thing for Dirt is basically the same. It's about the same length as Junkhead. It's more of the same slow plotting. It's almost hard to discern one track from the next, and then it's Want You to Kill Me, Take Me Under, Don't Want to Live No More. One Who Doesn't Care is One Who Shouldn't Be. Oh my Lord. Come on.
Yes, this is where it gets really brutal. Not that it wasn't before, but now we're really getting down into it. But yeah, talking about wanting to die, just put me in the hole, and this is it. And I mean, again, imagine having to deal with this person on a day-to-day basis. Like you want them to get better, but then there's the whole thing of, are you more creative when you are in this state? I don't know. And then you get to the point maybe where it's not my problem. Like you need to take care of your own stuff. It's a hard life to live, and especially being tied to someone like this. I mean, no offense, but like they got rid of Mike Starr and got Mike Inez to play the bass. You probably didn't even know that was swapped out. You would have definitely noticed if Staley wasn't there.
That's right. And like Cantrell does all the music for the most part, but Staley co-writes a lot of these things, and soon will be into the ones that he wrote on his own. But then you go to Godsmack. Obviously, he's talking about heroin is God. I don't know. He's back to heavy on this, but his quivering voice is scary more than anything. Like, it's not like he's saying Godsmack is great. It's like, be afraid of what you can't see, little kids. And then singing straight might be Jerry for him.
Could be, yeah.
It's a little hard to hear the song. It's also very just, don't do heroin. I don't know how many times I have to say it.
I mean, I think it's interesting that this song was so impressive that it actually spawned an entire band.
Godsmack, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's where they got this from. They were that impressed by this record and this track.
Who I saw open for Metallica once, I think on Death Magnetic. Are they the ones who did I'm Not the One Who's So Far Away?
I believe, yes.
I hate that song. Oh, yeah, no, I'm not a big fan, So, yeah, I'm not a fan of the song, I'm not a fan of the band. Some great drums, I'll say, from Kinney on this one, and some psychedelic guitar from Jerry. But can we move on, please? Yes.
We can, absolutely.
To intro or dream sequence, Iron Gland, or sometimes it's unlisted. It's 43 seconds of an odd thing with some noise on it with Tom Araya from Slayer.
Correct. And apparently this was something that Cantrell used to just mess with, and he would just annoy the ever-living bejesus out of everybody because he'd play it all the time, and they were like, you can't. And I think they used to use it to open the song before the band came on the shows. They play it over like on a track. But yeah, I think this was just something he would mess with to just piss everybody off.
Well, thank God it's only 43 seconds. It's not something you would choose to listen to. I would hope if you would buy the other 12 songs on something like an iTunes, they would just throw that one in. You shouldn't have to pay 99 cents for that. But now we get into the two Layne Staley solo rights on the album. So they're going to be uplifting.
Correct.
Hate to Feel and Angry Chair.
Mm-hmm.
I put, Layne wrote this, obviously. It's slow and plodding again. And it has this kind of start-stop thing. Is what the hell will it say? Eventually does build to more of a rocker. I still find it all very hard to listen to.
Yeah, and it's interesting because these are the two. Let me see. What else has he got on here? 1, 2, 3, 4. So Sickman, Junkhead, Dirt, and Godsmack are all credited to, and Rain When I Die are all credited to Staley in some form or another. But yeah, these are the two that he wrote himself. I'm interested to know how much of this, like, did he come start to finish with this? Apparently he played the guitars on it also, at least the riff part. And I think Cantrell was very pleased that he was bringing some really decent stuff. Even though it's written by him, it still fits in with the rest of the tracks on here.
Yeah, no, and why wouldn't you want a writing partner, especially one that can emote the way Layne Staley can, right? So you can put together some songs. All the weight isn't on you. That's nice. Is it maybe the best lyrics on the album? I don't know. It's real distorted solo from Jerry that I like. I don't know. It's so tough to listen to. I would have skipped it too. I would have skipped probably these five songs in a row between not just playing the as you would sometimes, not just like listening to the hits and then moving on. But between Rooster and Angry Chair, skipping all that in the days of CDs.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I could see, again, like you said, this was a big commitment time wise. When you get into a sequence where you don't have a single in there and the songs, they don't sound the same, but they sound similar. So, you kind of, I could see how, yes, you could skip a couple here and still be okay.
Well, it's just the mood it's creating, right? I mean, if you feel bad, what do? You put on sad music? No, you put on something good. You get up, you get moving, you go hiking, you go out and do your thing, ride your bike. Put on the happy music. If you listen to that, well, yeah, of course you're going to feel bad. I mean, once in a while you want to hear this song. Oh, this is a really good song. Listen to the way they do this. That's great. But to listen to the whole album, it's like, ugh. Life can't be that horrible. But I mean, look, if it is and this helps, great.
Yeah,
I think it's doing the opposite to me. I think it's making me feel bad.
But you never know. If somebody is in a situation like this, you can say to yourself, okay, I know somebody else is going through this also. And maybe that can help you. But yeah, if you're not, this is going to bring you down pretty quick.
Absolutely. All right, so we get to Angry Chair, which is the third single, the other Layne Staley solo right.
Yeah.
This is more of an artsy video.
I remember that. Yeah, because he was in the chair in the video, and what does that mean?
Yeah, and then they were burning the chair when he wasn't there, and they had the snake like crawling all over him and stuff. And the chorus has a decent melody, but it's I don't mind the end, lost my mind. Yeah, I can't find it anywhere. It's so negative. And the videos kind of barely got the other guys in it. I don't know, man. I know it was a big hit for them. I think it was a million seller for them.
I think too. Do you have a list of when these came out? I think this was kind of on the back end, right? As far as singles,
Angry Chair was third of 5.
Okay. I remember it coming out, and I remember I didn't like the video because I thought it was just kind of dumb. And I wonder too, like, how much of that was the band? Like, do you get there and they're like, oh, we've got this, artistic vision, and they're like, okay, fine, just do whatever. We don't even care. The fact that the rest of the band isn't in it a whole lot would signal to me like maybe they just weren't feeling it. They're like, yeah, just do the burning chair and we'll see you after lunch.
Well, and I think they had a different director on all 5 videos, which means there's no kind of consistency between it. Not that you need that, but Wood was Cameron Crowe, and obviously at the end was trying to kind of push his video. Them Bones was kind of very slick, ready for MTV. And Angry Chair, I mean, look, obviously they're going to have 2 singles off of a big album follow-up to Facelift. Them Bones is first, very well produced. Angry Chair, they decide that's the second best new song besides Wood. If Wood was already out, let's just say. It's separate from the album, even though it's on the album. So Angry Chair comes second. They make an artsy video. Then what? You're going to do Rooster, right? Well, we got to go out and film with Cantrell's dad and do all that. They had all this kind of stuff lined up. I feel like Down in the Hole was the one that they kind of said, you know what we could do? We could do one for Down in the Hole, So because that's released almost a year later. After the album's released, it's the 29th of September, 1992. Down in the Hole's released August 30th, 1993.
Wow.
So, and of course, the Wood was June 30th, 1992, because it came out way before the album. So that's like over a year, this thing selling millions of singles and millions of copies of the album appealed to somebody. I mean, I know grunge was big, and after Nirvana's Nevermind came out, this was kind of one of the real next big ones.
Right.
It was a year after that, right? So
yeah.
This is what everybody, if you like that, this was the next thing a lot of people bought.
Correct. Yeah, I think it was all of those. I mean, if you go back and look, so it was this one. It was Bad Motorfinger by Soundgarden. Pearl Jam had the Verses, which was 92. I think also all of those things. Yeah, if you were into this, you just bought them. Whatever the next one was, you just grabbed it.
Absolutely. And if Fish's Wood, which was again we talked about the first single, and that bass, opening bass, is kind of iconic now. I would say it's not a beat, but it has a drive to it that's a little bit different, that kind of makes it a little not of the record, and I think that's why maybe it's a single. I don't know. Cantrell is singing lead on some, and it is important to note that I didn't realize this is, or I'd forgotten, because I remember them saying this back in the day, that this is about Andrew Wood of Mother Love Bone, who died.
How?
Oh, that's right, an OD. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
1990.
But that's okay. We're just going to go ahead and
we'll make a 3.5 minute ditty out of it, and it'll sell 2 million copies.
Well, I remember when this came out as part of the movie. I think this was the big single from the soundtrack. This was the one that they used to sell the movie, and it was, like you said, the bass part was awesome. That intro, the intro thing, because I think that I heard it first before I saw the video. I'm like, that doesn't sound like Layne Staley. What's going on with this? And then you say, oh wait, no, that's Cantrell singing the beginning, and then Staley comes in to do the chorus and the main vocal part. I really like this song. I think it was a great transition from the first record to this record. And the fact that it did have that tie-in, I think it was the Mother Love Bone was one of those ones too. Like, that dude would have been a super huge star, so everybody said, had he not OD'd.
Yeah, maybe I should have OD'd, and then people say, wow, he would have been something special.
He could have been
instead of whatever he is now. So, I mean, look, overall, what's your take on the record as far as its place in history and how you feel about it?
I mean, I really like this record. I think it's a real tough go to sit through almost an hour of it. I think it's one of those ones where you're probably better off kind of picking and choosing going through them, because if you listen to all 13 tracks, like, you need a hug and a nap after this one. It's very heavy. It's very brutal when you listen to the lyrics. I mean, I like it. I think it's definitely of a time, the kind of that early 90s angst mixed in with the drug addiction. I think it's a great record, but it's not an easy listen. You're not going to put this one on the car and just groove.
No, you're not. What's interesting is actually the single soundtrack. Mm-hmm. The single soundtrack was a double platinum selling soundtrack, and Wood is the only single off of it. Now, it's not the only great song off there. You got State of Love and Trust by Pearl Jam on there. You got a cool version of Battle of Evermore done by the Lovemongers on there. Paul Westberg's got a cool song on there. Chris Cornell's on there. He's in the movie too. Good stuff on there, but yeah, I mean, they're selling everything at that point, right? Everything's selling. There's singles, the soundtracks they're on. The Jar of Flies EP that followed this record went straight to #1 in America. First EP to ever do that. And it went quadruple platinum. An EP, so, I mean, it was obvious the record company was behind them, and they were of a time, and they definitely had some talent. And I remember it just because I remember the time in college when it came out, and it was part of this scene of grunge and hard rock. I didn't really necessarily put it in either camp. We're hard rock guys, the Metallicas, the Guns N' Roses at the time, the Cult. That's the stuff we were into. This fit more in with that than it seemed to me than Nirvana, but it did also. And because they're from Seattle, they all kind of got lumped in together. I had not listened to this in a long time, and there's a reason. This is kind of just a horrible, makes you feel bad, you know? Like I said, I put on some ABBA after I listened to this just so I would be in a better mood. So I'm like, I understand it was a huge seller. It was kind of part of that time in our lives when we lived together, and there was so much change and cool stuff going on in music generally. But revisiting this doesn't make me wish I'd seen them more. It is kind of a badge of honor that I've seen them, and I get a lot of street cred for that.
Yeah.
Even though at the time I didn't see them do a whole set, and B, I wasn't super jazzed to be seeing them.
I really think that this was the kind of the music that we got to claim as our own. I mean, like, we love the Rolling Stones and we loved Led Zeppelin and AC/DC, but that was all that had all kind of come out before we got involved with it. This was happening, like, it was fresh. These albums were coming out. The bands, I know they were all friendly with each other. There was no like animosity, but they definitely wanted to outpace each other. So yeah, to have all of these things come out at the same time that was new, that was kind of a special time. And I always kind of have that tie to it, that this was stuff that I got to experience first.
Right. Yeah. Right. First album comes out when we're in high school. We get to see them live with Van Halen at the time. This comes out sophomore year. We know our routine. We know stuff comes out Tuesdays. We know the days we can go get the albums. I mean, AC/DC Live came out not too far away. It came out our sophomore year. And I mean, I just remember getting that was so much bigger for me than Dirt was. Dirt had some pop songs that were popular. But listening, and I'm an album guy, listening to the whole album, even though I would skip a lot back then just to hits, I would have to do it on this one, I feel like. Whereas, AC/DC Live, I just let it play. So, I respect for Jerry Cantrell as a writer and a player and as a singer. His voice, mixed with Layne's, is unique. It's what makes them who they are. I've not really heard much about how is Alice in Chains now live.
I've heard good things. I mean, I think you have to get over the fact that it's not Layne Staley. Okay, we're not getting him. He's not coming back. It's a different guy. His name escapes me right now. But I've heard it's actually not bad. If you can get over that it's not the original band, it's pretty good.
All right. Well, William Duvall is on lead vocals. He also plays a little guitar. Maynard James Keenan did like the reunion thing in 2005, decided he wasn't right or whatever, but it's been William Duvall, and it's been that way for 15 years. So it's, there hasn't been huge lineup changes. I mean, there's basically been 6 men in the history of the band. The 2 who aren't are dead, right? So except for Maynard James Keenan, who did that one tour, so you can make that 7. They represent an important little piece. 11 Grammy Award nominations. Jeez, I didn't know that. 30 million record sales worldwide, 14 million in the U.S. It wouldn't have surprised me if it was more than that, 20 million in the U.S. Because when I look at, being the Ugly American Werewolf in London, we compare a lot about what hits in America in the U.S. versus what hits in the U.K., and it can be very different. And they didn't have huge success over in the UK, I think Dirt went gold in Britain, maybe. Got to number 42. Okay. The next one went silver. That's not great. So I don't think they really hit the charts. And, that's the thing. Britpop was so huge. Like Oasis and Blur and Backstreet Preachers, and that was big over in the UK at the time. Whereas, we're kind of we're going the whole grunge thing. We were still going through a very classic rock phase because, around that time, Jimmy Page and David Coverdale were putting out an album. Aerosmith was still back up on top of the world again, and Kiss had Revenge out. Guns N' Roses was still touring off Use Your Illusion. We were still very much in the classic rock days. Keith put out Main Offender. We were still digging all that kind of old school music, incorporating some of the new. Because I avoided grunge. I still don't like grunge. I still don't like Nirvana. I'm one of the very few who did.
Yeah, I think you can pick. I think that was kind of the other thing too, is like if you like grunge, you had to like all of it, and that was never the case. Yeah, I agree with you. I never got Nirvana. I was not. It just didn't resonate with me. Pearl Jam. I mean, I liked them okay. They were not hard enough. Right. Soundgarden I liked, but my favorite was Alice in Chains, just because I liked the riffs that Cantrell laid down, and Staley's voice was just so otherworldly, what he could do. And apparently, we saw him in concert, and up until detrimental. All of the 3 records that they put out with him, I believe. Well, I guess the 5 with the EPs. Like, I don't think he ever lost it. Like, he could still sing in concert in that range. And so to have that is just the sound that they put out to me. It resonated with me.
It was
the
unique,
best.
and it was very of a time.
Yeah.
And it came and it went, basically, right? I mean, they made 3 records, 2 EPs, or I guess technically 3 EPs, a landmark unplugged live album, went, I think, double platinum in its own right, and that's basically it. That's it. That's the band.
Yeah. Because I think so. If this came out in '92, when did that 3rd record come out? Like
no, it's 95. Yeah, no,
95.
Because Jar of Flies was
95.
94.
Okay, so I think after that, I think by that 3rd record, they were all on the outs. I think Staley was really messed up. You're talking about Britpop. Oasis was starting to rule the airwaves, and the grunge had. I mean, not that they didn't sell records, they were just not the darlings of FM airplay like they had been.
Yeah, and I think that Nirvana did okay over there. I don't think all the grunge bands did well over in the UK. And then when Nirvana was gone, well, to a lot of people that meant grunge was gone too. But obviously Pearl Jam has had a huge, long career. They can kind of do whatever they want. Eddie Vedder's been able to spin off to do all sorts of Eddie Vedder stuff on his own. The other guys have been able to do side projects over the years. That's not a grunge band. That's just a band from Seattle, man. But this Alice in Chains, yeah, grunge, yeah, heavy metal, I think so. But doom metal. It's so Staley's voice is special. I'll give it to him, and the way he can use it to emote these nasty, nasty things he sing about. I'm sorry he had to go through everything. I'm sorry he lost his struggle, and same with Mike Starr, and same with everyone else who falls to that. It just sounds like it was part of the scene back then.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, like you talked about Andrew Wood, overdose, and I'm sure there's a host of other people that we've never heard of before, behind the scenes in that crowd. Yeah, it was just a big presence, and it seems to me like once it grabs a hold of you, you're in a lot of trouble. I mean, some people do make it out, but it's not going to be easy. So like we said at the beginning, just stay away.
Yeah, well, next time we're going to review the Bee Gees, okay? We're going to do something like Saturday Night Fever, something happy.
That will be a different kind of drug they were doing then.
Yeah, that's right. A way better one. What? Well, that's our uplifting story of Dirt by Alice in Chains. Came out in September 29th, 1992, so it's 30th anniversary here. Jackson and I were in college trying to find what's the next best hard rock band, right? And Alice in Chains fit the bill, right? They were kind of from Seattle, so yes, they're grungy, but they had killer heavy riffs. This guy has an amazing voice. It's very Sabbathy. It fits the bill, right? But when you really dive in there, it's all about heroin use and being let down by those who love you and hating yourself and not getting caught in this trap that is heroin. It's a cautionary tale, especially when you look back and see what happened to Layne Staley and Mike Starr for that matter. Half of the founding members of the band died from heroin, and they weren't that old. Were they in their 30s? I think so. So it was a little bit tough for me to listen to all that. Not that I don't have my own bouts with depression and things like that. It's just when I was listening to that music, I was using it as, hey, listen how dirty and heavy this is. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, now put on Metallica. Dun, dun. Okay, now put on, something like that. I couldn't listen to it now. I really couldn't, because I have to listen to the album a few times to get into it for the show. By the third lesson, I'm like, oh, this is just not fun. These people are not in a healthy place, and it's not something I can listen to all the time. Now, if you're having a hard time with drugs, alcohol, or just depression, please go out and get help. Okay, please ask somebody for help, be it a professional or someone you know, someone you trust. Get the help you need. People are willing to help you. You don't have to live like this. But if listening to this music helps you get through it, then by all means listen to it. And I know that listening to Metallica and stuff like that has helped me and Jackson through some tough times before, but it's usually uplifting at the end of the day. Or it's like, hey, you're not alone. It's something bad. It's not like it's horrible and it's always going to be horrible and just stay horrible in this horrible place, which is what I was starting to get from listening to Alice in Chains. There's a reason I hadn't listened to it in decades. But stylistically, it is very heavy. Some great riffs from Jerry Cantrell, some good songwriting and delivery from he and Layne Staley. It was a point in time where they were kind of at the apex of this grunge heavy rock thing. But it wasn't long after that when people kind of said, hey, I need something lighter, and that's when Hootie and the Blowfish come along. They're, oh, light and happy. The Spin Doctors come along. Oh, yeah, that's happy stuff. Yeah, that's none of that grunge stuff that kind of brings you down. And while the UK did not necessarily jump on board the Alice in Chains bandwagon, it's not like you didn't have your own heroin problems. Obi-Wan Kenobi's career started basically with Train Spotting in 1996, which wasn't so long after this. A little bit different take on the epidemic in UK versus the US, but obviously it's just kind of one of those things where in the US, we embraced it. Sounded great. In the UK, it's kind of like, obviously there's some fans, but didn't race up the charts, didn't get top 40, didn't have huge sales. Huge part of their legacy, though. They'll always be remembered for this album. Absolutely, this is the one at their apex. MTV Unplugged too, of course, but a lot of people did those. Not everybody made dirt. So, as usual, we want to know, folks, did we get something right? Did we get something wrong? Did we miss the point? Did we leave out your favorite part? You have got to let us know. You can email us, uglyamericanwerewolf@gmail.com, or you could tweet or DM us at ugly_werewolf at ActionJack72. Let us know the bands, the records, the concerts, the CDs, the DVDs, the rock and roll properties you want us to cover. And we would thank our incredible sponsors over at rarevinyl.com or EIL.com. Remember, if you're looking for your rare or mint condition Alice in Chains, LPs, CDs, tour programs, whatever you're looking for, go to rarevinyl.com, use our code podcast. It will get you 10% off not only your first order, but all your orders going forward. And they ship all around the world, folks. They have over 250,000 pieces in their collection. They're in great shape. They've been curated by an amazing team. And I know that there's collectors out there. So if you were looking for something special, you're looking for it in great shape, you want to get it in a reasonable amount of time, go to rarevinyl.com, use code podcast, save your 10% on all your purchases. And thanks to all of our friends at Pantheon Podcasts. We're so proud to be part of this network. About 100 great shows out there, all music, not all rock and roll, all sorts of different genres out there for you to kind of enjoy and to experiment with, take a look at. And remember, we are running the giveaway for 2 free front row tickets, an exclusive VIP experience to Nick Mason's Saucer Full of Secrets in America. We're going to be at the Indianapolis show. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Nick Mason to learn more about that. Next week, we got to do something lighter, folks. We've got to do something a little bit lighter. And I've got a couple of ideas in mind, but Jackson and I are going to get together and think about it. Can't all be heavy metal and doom and heroin all the time. We got to have something a little bit lighter in our lives. So that'll be the goal for next week. So sincerely, to all you rock and rollers all around the world, be cool and stay safe.